Hi guys, Chelsea Anderson here with your Red Door Real Estate team at Keller Williams East Valley. I am back for section 2 in hold here, which goes through, or stage 2, it goes through chapters 4 through 8, I believe, on how to analyze the properties that we found in the first section. So remember, step 1 is find properties. Determine your criteria, and step 2 is analyze the properties to make sure that they meet the criteria. So a couple of resources I want to draw your attention to. www.kellerinc.com is a really great resource. It's through Keller Williams, and you can get all of the hold worksheets that you saw in here through stage 2 for analyzing the property. So you can just plug in some numbers and have it all auto-populate to see if it meets your criteria. So at the end of this, or on our Facebook page, I'll post a couple of the worksheets that I had come together and put together. I have about, I think, 8 or 9 properties that I had picked out from stage 1, which is find properties that look good on paper really quickly. And then now that we're brought them into step 2 on analyzing them, the numbers are very different. And so some of them work and some of them don't. It really turns into 2 properties that I can identify that, if I can get it for fair market value or an investor rate, really makes sense for me based on my own investment criteria. So my standard is to cash flow about $100 a month or more. So that's my minimum. So once we go into these things and break these things down, we find that it quickly narrows down fast. Like I said, I went from about 9 or 10 properties that I had identified down to 2, and one of them is a big time winner over the other one. So let's jump in really quick here. So they've broken it down into 4 steps for us for analyze. The first one is price. So once we find a property, we know the list price. What we're trying to figure out is what is the market value of that property. So what is the retail price? And then what would be the investor price or the wholesale price? So those are the 3 numbers that we want to know when we're plugging into our worksheet. So on the investment side of things, you have to look for properties where there's opportunity. Either somebody else doesn't want to take on, having to replace an air conditioner or something like that, but you make money by solving a problem that others either won't solve or can't solve. And so therein lies that opportunity for you getting a bigger discount on some of these properties. So through the book here, they recommend trying to get a 10% discount for the investor side of things on any of these properties, and know what the numbers are at the list price, at fair market value, and where you're trying to get it. So you want to know what your cash flow is going to be at any of these, so that if they counter back in the middle, are you still within your criteria, and does property still work for you? The other thing that you want to do is make sure that you have spoken with a lender and know what your pre-qual limit is if you're financing and if you're paying cash. So you want to know what your budget is and what your pre-qual limit is, and get some of those rough numbers for you. So what would be the anticipated down payment and mortgage payment on $100,000 for you, and what would that interest rate be, so you can then also plug that stuff into the worksheet to come out with your numbers. Then the other thing that you want to know on any of these properties is what would be the total cost of the make-ready repairs, or the repairs that you would need to rent it at a certain level that you're trying to get the rents at. So if it's like a total fixer-upper, but you have to get it to kind of middle grade to be able to rent it for the rents that you need to be able to cash flow it the way that you want to meet your criteria, what is the cash that you would have to bring in to make those repairs? Is it just $2,000? Is it $10,000? Is it $20,000? You want to know that stuff. So the 3 things for figuring out what the comps are is, right, have your agent pull them. So I can definitely help you with that. We can pull the comps, tell you how fast they sold, what they look like on the inside, where they were in the complex, that type of stuff. Then you want to go and physically look at them. Is there some reason that this one would have sold for a lot less than any others? Is there a reason that this one would have sold for a lot more than any of the others? That type of stuff. And then you want to make sure that those numbers, you're holding those numbers accountable to what you said your goals were. Again, don't get carried away with the emotions of any of these properties that we're looking at. So you really need to hold those numbers accountable, figure out where your goals are, and stick to them. So the second part, before I go on, page 54. has the whole analysis worksheet. So I don't know if you can see that here. This is what's on Keller Inc. that you can download, so it's really easy to fill. The second part of this here is doing that exact same analysis on the rental market. So what are the comps? Call your property management connection that you made in the finding and doing some of the basic criteria stuff. Ask them, what they're seeing, what properties are leasing faster, what the market is looking like, that type of stuff. Check local papers, check Zillow, drive the neighborhoods that you like and figure out if there's any rental signs, that type of stuff, and see what these people are getting, along with what they're charging for security deposits, pet deposits, cleaning deposits, credit checks, application fees, that type of stuff. You also want to know how much time are they spending on the market before they get rented and get a tenant in place. So that is then going to figure out into your vacancy rate and what to expect. So per the book and per their standard, they're saying estimate about 5%, which is a little bit less than 3 weeks, that you will not have a tenant in there. So that's going to factor into how much rent you're getting and what that cash flow number ends up being. So page 73 has 9 questions right here that you can go through and ask a property manager. So if you really want to know about the market, they are great resources. As long as they're doing a high volume business. So if they're managing 50 to 100 properties in the neighborhoods that you're looking at or the cities that you're looking at, then they would be a great resource for you to kind of see, so what is the average, what to expect, what properties are renting for more, what do they look like on the inside, I have this much money to put in upgrades, is it worth it? They'd be a good resource for you. The other part here, section 3, is all about the extra costs. So what if you've decided to have a management company? Estimate 10% of your rental amount there to pay for your property management. What are my leasing costs? And what that means is how much is it in commission to have a realtor list it for me? Am I going to be listing it myself and finding a tenant? Or am I going to be having the property managers take on that responsibility as well? So you can figure that out, and there's different costs associated for all of those. The maintenance reserve is kind of the repair and upkeep fund. So what they're trying to do here is set your mind up to kind of budget money each month out of the rents to set aside just in case the AC breaks next year, or you have a roof leak, or you need a new water heater, or the stove goes out, whatever that may be, to set you up so that it's not cash money out of your pocket and putting that back into the rental fund. So you're building that in so that you're still cash flowing and making a profit with those kind of oh shoot moments built into your scenario. Utilities, depending on the property that you get into, sometimes you have to cover, water if it's a specific condo, or sometimes, some of those things kind of play out. Sometimes if you have a pool, you want to make sure that the pool's taken care of, so you're going to cover pool service. That would be one of those things that goes into some of these categories. Taxes vary around town here, city by city. So if you're looking for a specific tax rate for a city around Phoenix, let me know and I can share that with you. So the average is going to be about 1%. And if we're looking at specific properties, I can give you what the taxes were over last year, so you can estimate using that number moving forward. Insurance is going to be about 0.5%, so 0.5% would be a good estimate of what your insurance costs would be. And then there's a section for other, and then don't forget about those repairs and budgeting those in. So the other piece of that is your financing costs. So we talked about that a little bit earlier, figuring out what that rate is. Are we going for a 15-year versus 30-year mortgage, and how does that all play together? So then the last piece here is figuring out your NOI, or your net operating income, and your cash flow. So once we've totaled up all of those numbers, let me go back and pull that sheet here, 54 I believe. Once we've filled out this entire thing, we're going to end up with where our cash flow is on the bottom. So if that number doesn't meet your predetermined goal of where you want these properties to be making money for you, next. Or you can look at it and go, I really like this one for a bunch of other reasons. If I can get it for $1,000 less, does that make it more appealing? Or, kind of play with those. If you're really, really close, like it's $90 and you really want to make $100, does it make sense to see if you can get it for $2,000 less or something like that to see if you can bridge that gap a little bit? The very last bit in this section talks about some of the investment terms that you'll hear bouncing around. So one is the cap rate or the capitalization rate, one is the rent to value, and one is the cash on cash return. So the one that I like to focus on is my cash on cash return, which is the cash flow that I'm getting each month or each year compared to my initial investment in cash. So that would be the initial repairs I put in and the initial down payment, because that's the actual money that I'm going to have invested into this property. So I don't care so much about the overall stuff as I want to hold my money accountable. So as long as this baby is rented and somebody else is paying my mortgage, putting that off to the side, I want to know what is my cash flow versus what I put down. And I want that number to really, really be the number that I'm focused on, as well as my monthly cash flow in general, but overall, that's where I want to put most of my focus. So I'm sorry I'm losing my voice today. I don't really know why. Apparently I've been talking too much today. So if you have questions, phone number to reach me, 602-748-6136. And we'll catch up next week for stage 3, which is buying homes. So we'll talk about the offer process and stuff like that in next week's video. So let me know what questions you have. I can post up the example worksheets that I made looking at my own stuff so you can kind of compare what's going on and see what numbers I'm using and what numbers I'm looking for. I'll toss those on Facebook, and if you have questions, let me know. Again, Chelsea Anderson, 602-748-6136, or feel free to shoot me an email, chelsea@yourreddoorteamaz.com. Bye.